Alright, now admittedly I'm a little bit late to this party, but I have finally seen Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, I don't really want to take up your time doing a review of a movie that's already been out for more than 2 weeks, but seeing the movie does make me want to talk about some things about the Marvel Universe in general, specifically some things about it that kind of have me a little worried. Now, before I get down this road, let me just say Guardians of the Galaxy was a ton of fun, and I have no doubt it is going to be, for an entire generation, a better analog for Star Wars than the actual new Star Wars movies are going to end up being. Now, I am going to be talking spoilers for Guardians and for every other Marvel movie that's come out so far, so you've been warned. That's out of the way, let's do this. Every good thing you've heard about Guardians of the Galaxy is true, but if there's one sticking point that you find consistently, it's that people tend to say the villain's a little weak. Lee Pace is Ronan the Accuser. He looks the part, he's intimidating enough, but really it's very cut and paste. It's very insert world-destroying guy here. And it really kind of brought to my attention the fact that the Marvel movies have a little bit of a villain problem going on right now. Quick, name a memorable villain from any of the Phase 2 movies. Nope, sorry, Loki does not count. He was introduced in Phase 1. And your time is up. See what I mean? It's odd because in a way, the fact that the latest crop of Marvel villains have been more or less interchangeable is actually partly due to stuff they're doing really well, which is that they do the heroes fantastically. It's kind of the opposite of what is often a criticism of the Batman franchises, which is the villains are so interesting that they overshadow the heroes. Now, really, if you're going to have one outshine the other, you're better off having the hero outshine the villain, especially if your heroes are going to stick around and you're trying to build some bigger universe. But I really do feel that Marvel is getting complacent with this template that they've started using, because really, Ronan is the exact same villain that Malekith from Thor: The Dark World was. The only real difference is that Ronan gets just a little bit more motivational explanation. He wants to destroy this planet because he's out for revenge, and it may be a religious thing too. It's kind of implied. Malekith wanted to destroy the universe because that's what dark elves do, I guess. It's very obviously that they're using the same mannequin and just dressing him in different clothes. Let's be fair, Marvel has hit it out of the park before with the awesomeness that is Loki. But even that's starting to become a little bit of a problem too, because he's become so popular they had to make him kind of an anti-hero in the second Thor movie. And even though there's stuff that goes on at the end of that it's obvious he's going to still be in villain status, Marvel's never going to kill him. He's too popular. And then it's almost like he becomes Dr. Evil in a way. That's kind of the problem with villains when you're building a larger franchise. You either keep them around for so long that they become as popular as the heroes and you can never kill them, which you should be able to do with a villain, or you kill them at the end of every story and then you just start getting into that trouble of they become very copy-paste. Marvel somehow is managing to do both these things. Now, I haven't given up hope on all this. Obviously, we've got Ultron waiting to see that could work, and despite my earlier reservations, I actually really liked what Josh Brolin brought to Thanos in the 2 scenes that he had in Guardians. He's got this little bit of suave to him that just your generic booming voice actor wouldn't have brought to the part. So I'll be excited to see him come back. And also, Guardians wasn't a total loss either because we had Karen Gillan as Nebula. And on paper, this character really thin, but she did a lot in her performance, just finding motivations and with little expressions and the way she delivered lines. She brought a lot of depth to that character. I'm actually really glad they didn't kill her. Although that actually brings me to my second point, and that would be the lack of death, or more accurately, the lack of permanent death for anybody aside from villains. Look, it's one thing for the heroes to live. That's actually par for the course in any sort of Hollywood franchise. It's another thing to go, oh, they're dead, ah ha ha, fooled you, and then bring them back. Marvel's pulled this trick on audiences 5 times now. They did it with Phil Coulson, Nick Fury, Bucky Barnes, Loki, and now Groot. Look, the thing of Groot regrowing from a cutting of himself, I was prepared to give that a pass because it does come out of the comic books. But it's become a pattern I just can't ignore. Any isolated case of where they do this is fine unto itself, but it's the repeat use of this. You start adding these all up and it starts to look dangerously like Marvel comic books or comic books in general. Because in comic books, nobody ever stays dead. And if they keep bringing that on board with the movies, then when they actually do decide to kill somebody, even if it's somebody important, it's going to lose all its weight because audiences are going to be going, oh yeah, sure, you killed him. When's he coming back? Come on. Comic book reviews used to say nobody stays dead except for Bucky, Jason Todd, and Uncle Ben. You know what? They don't say that anymore. Why? Because 2 out of 3 of those have since been brought back to life. Marvel Studios has already pushed this to the point that I can't take any death seriously. The only notable character death that's stuck so far has been Freya, Thor's mom. I suppose if you want, you can count Jensen from the first Iron Man. I don't personally, because it's very clear that he's not going to make it through the end of this. There was nothing shocking about that death. stop pretending to kill people or kill them and let them stay dead. Because eventually, they're going to come around to a point where they need to kill somebody permanently, and they have to be able to have us take that seriously. Specifically, I figure it's going to be Chris Evans as Captain America, because he's made it very clear that once his contract is up, he does not want to continue making these movies or really acting at all. And Marvel Studios seems to be anticipating that because they've introduced two characters who have both taken up the mantle of Captain America in the comics in Steve Rogers' absence. The thing is though, for my money, that doesn't happen till Avengers 3. So we've got between now and then to establish that death has meaning and relevance. Finally, I want to touch on the stinger at the end of the credits for a couple of reasons. People seem really split on this particular one, which involved a joke with Howard the Duck. Some people thought it was hilarious, which I did. Some people were confused by it because they had no idea who Howard the Duck was. And some people were ticked off by it because they sat through all these credits and all they got was a joke. No building of a larger universe, no teasing for what's coming next, just a joke. But come on, let's be serious. There have only been 2 credit stingers that have had any real important meaning. The introduction of Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man and the reveal of Thanos mid-credits on Avengers. That's it. The rest of them you don't need. They were just kind of tossed in there. I have no problem with them using it as a joke. That said, some people have actually now started asking, does this mean we're getting a Howard the Duck movie? No, I really don't think that's the case. But it does make me wonder, does Marvel think they can get away with anything? Because it's become a bit of a joke with Guardians being as big as it is, even though it's really good. People saying, oh, well, they could just sell us any character now because of how little known Guardians were. It wasn't a bankable name, but they made a great, very successful movie out of it. And I really hope that Marvel doesn't start to buy into that hype themselves. And I'm worried about that specifically with what looks like their next big announced project, which is the Inhumans. Now, I will admit to not knowing a ton about the Inhumans. But the more I look into it and the more I find out, the more I'm kind of like, guys, can we leave this one alone? Because here's the thing. Yes, Guardians is made up of characters that nobody knows and are really patently ridiculous, but it fills a niche that was not currently covered by its other projects. Because that's the thing, while all these characters, they share a universe and they share a general feel, they're all filling different niches with the individual franchises. They're all action movies to a certain extent, but Iron Man, you've got the more sci-fi bend to it. Thor fills the fantasy niche. Captain America has filled multiple niches, initially with sort of a nostalgic old-timey war movie and then with a political thriller, and now Guardians of the Galaxy is filling sort of that space opera, Star Wars kind of feel to it. But exactly what niche is the Inhumans gonna fill? It just makes me concerned, and we've heard a little bit since then that it seems like Kevin Feige's idea is that that's gonna sort of be Marvel's substitute for the X-Men because Fox has the rights to all those. And I can see where there's a certain validity to that. You know, you deal with issues of sort of acceptance and finding your place in the world by these people who were just born this way and they can't help it. But then it seems like they're chasing Fox's tail a little bit. It would be one thing if the X-Men franchise was badly flagging, but it's been very well revitalized in recent years. And Marvel kind of doing this, oh, we wish we had the X-Men. Well, what's the closest thing we got that we still have the rights to? Oh, we can do the Inhumans. I don't like that because part of what's been great about Marvel in all of this is they are the leaders in this movie comic book industry. And the other thing about the Inhumans, if they use them similar to how X-Men gets used, where now suddenly they can have a ton of characters that they don't have to justify where they got their powers from, that really does risk them flooding the universe with too many superpowered characters. I mean, let us not forget, they've had to cull the herd several times in the comic books with the Legacy Virus, Decimation. They get overloaded with these guys, and it could very easily happen in the movies if they're not really careful about it. Let me be clear, I'm not saying Marvel's headed down the wrong path or that their movies suddenly suck. I'm just saying that I'm noticing these patterns that they worry me, and they're patterns that I really want to see Marvel either break away from or find a way to subvert, because if they keep going down the path that they've set, it's gonna start to unravel on them. But I have a pretty good amount of faith in them that they're well aware enough that some of these things, if not all of them, will get corrected. But I just gotta get my feelings out there and my concerns. Maybe you share them, maybe you think I'm crazy. You know what? At this point, we have got 10 Marvel movies that have hit theaters. So, out of the 10, what is your personal favorite Marvel movie? Drop something down in the comments and let's talk about it. Until next time, this council is adjourned.